Hello and welcome to another edition of East of Ethnia. This week I would like to talk to you about Bosnia and Herzegovina and the biggest news in Bosnia and Herzegovina this week, which involves the president, now the former president, of one of the entities that makes up that state of Republika Srpska, a fellow by the name Milorad Dodik. Now, Milorad Dodik has been attempting, as most of his predecessors did before him and most of his successors will do after him, fundamentally to try to establish independent power for the entity of which he is the former president, and to undermine the power of the central state, of the federal state in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And the last attempt that he made to do that was by refusing to implement legal orders for imposition of laws that were imposed by the High Representative, the international overseer, who who exercises control through oversight of the institutions of government of Bosnia and Herzegovina. And for that, he was charged with the crime of violating the legal order, was convicted of the crime, and a sentence was imposed. The sentence involves 1 month in prison, or I'm sorry, 1 year of in prison, a prison sentence, and 6 years of a ban from holding public office or engaging in political activity. So this sentence was initially imposed by the court when he was convicted of the offense. It was suspended as a part of the deal between the prosecution and defense last month. That looked a little bit suspicious, and then was upheld when his appeal against his conviction was rejected by the court earlier this week. So legally, the sentence is in force. He is not able to serve in the office in which he has been serving up until now, or in any other office for another 6 years, and probably should go to serve his 1 year prison sentence, although there's some question about whether he will serve it or not. Now, if you want to talk about the offense that he committed, he's made an effort to portray it as kind of an untoward show of force by the High Representative to try to force compliance. But really, the offense that he committed of failing to implement legal resolutions that were imposed by the High Representative is a more serious political offense and a threat to the constitutional order and stability of Bosnia and Herzegovina. What he did was to claim for his entity powers that it did not have, powers of the state, that is, to take from the state powers that belong to it and to try to arrogate those powers to the entity. So it is a threat. This is something that the institutions in Bosnia and Herzegovina could not allow to continue. He tries to portray it as a kind of personal conflict between him and Christian Schmidt, the High Representative. But what is happening here is not that he failed to be sufficiently polite to Christian Schmidt or something like that. There are no great reserves of affection or support for Schmidt. Rather, what he was trying to do is to take this entity of which he is the former president, which is not a state, and to give to it the powers of a state. And this has been a constant effort since the Dayton Agreement was signed in 1995. Now, since the conviction was upheld, there have been notes of objection coming, especially not so much from inside Bosnia and Herzegovina or even from Republika Srpska, but from a neighboring country, from Serbia, the main international sponsor of Republika Srpska. So you had the president of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, saying that he does not accept the verdict, saying that although Dodik has been sentenced to serve a term in prison, that he certainly would not be arrested in Serbia. You have the head, the patriarch of the Serbian Orthodox Church, Pomfriti or whatever that hell his name is, saying that this is an attack on the entire Serbian people in Bosnia and Herzegovina and an attempt to remove them from political influence and power. So inflammatory words coming from the head of the church institution. You have the media, the pro-regime media in Serbia, saying that this is an attack on the Dayton Agreement and on the resolution that brought an end to the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina in 1995. What is going to come of all of the noise that is coming from across the border? Well, I think not much. Um, Vucic, of course, does not have any authority about regarding whether to accept or not to accept decisions that are made by a court in another state, a state of which he is not a resident, is not a citizen, and does not hold any official position. He can probably prevent Dodik from serving his prison sentence by giving him some sort of asylum or protection in Serbia. He can't do anything about the ban from holding public office or engaging in political activity. But what I think is more important is that Dodik is not getting a tremendous amount of support from ethnic Serbs in Bosnia and Herzegovina, in Republika Srpska. The opposition has explicitly said they do not regard his conviction as a threat to the legal or constitutional order, or as an attack on the members of an ethnic group. So Dodik is probably going to fail in the latest version of his attempt to try to avoid consequences for his action. But what's interesting is probably to note, why is it that he's likely to fail? And it could be that the reason that he's likely to fail is that in his politics, he has been too successful. And here's what we mean. We mean that trying to destabilize and undermine the power of the central state has been the official policy of just about every party and about every government in Republika Srpska since the time that it was created by the Dayton Agreement. I mean, as a matter of fact, Dodik's party, which ironically enough is still called the Union of Independent Social Democrats, even though it's neither independent nor social democratic, was meant to offer an alternative to that policy, and it's one of the reasons why, through acts of force by a previous High Representative and by the European Union and by the United States, he was first brought into positions of political power in 2006. But Dodik's policy since coming into power has not been to continue the policies under which the Independent Social Democratic Party was founded, but instead to adopt the same policies as his nationalist predecessors, but to escalate them, to intensify the opposition, to make threats of secession, to actively engage in activity to undermine state institutions and to undermine the force of law of the Central Federation in Republika Srpska. And he has done that so well that it probably represents a consensus opinion of all of the well-represented political parties trying to attract support from ethnic Serbs in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And that means that he is replaceable. I mean, what he's got behind him now is nearly 20 years of intensive propaganda and of construction of a network that controls all employment, access to social benefits, state contracts, and so on. And so, I mean, what's happened is that this network and these political ideas and the strange kind of informal network of semi-political institutions that he has created will survive him. They don't need him to function. I mean, what will happen will probably be very soon an election in which a new president for the entity is chosen, and whoever is chosen will probably have ideas and political goals that are very similar to the ones that Dodik has, possibly without the strategy of constant escalation and heightening of tensions that Dodik has pursued. So really, I think you'll find very, very little change, and you'll find very little change because Dodik has been so successful in creating a system that revolves around him and his network that he has become unnecessary to the continued function of his network and presents kind of an unjustifiable cost to people who want to benefit from that network. And there is a lesson to learn from that. from the building of authoritarian power and absolute control through the control of informal political networks. And that is that leaders who appear to be very powerful, who appear to control nearly everything, are in fact very weak. And they are weaker to the extent that they are successful in creating networks that can function without their participation. So that's what we're about to see in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And there's a lesson there because I think you see, I mean, Dodik is a bit of a caricature of, well, everything that he does. But similar strategies of rule have been adopted by the dominant parties in pretty much every state in the region. So that's what I think we can take from the upholding of this conviction by the court in Bosnia and Herzegovina this past week. Thank you for your time and attention, and we will talk again.